Hello everyone, welcome back to the Keep Productive YouTube channel. It's Francesco here. Today I am lucky to be joined by Martin and Michael from the RemNote team. We're going to be chatting a little bit about RemNote, where it's what the sort of story, all about its sort of evolution, how it compares to other applications, a few burning questions that you may have. So welcome guys, excited to have you both to chat about RemNote.
Thanks.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we were just chatting before. Martin, you originally founded it, you said 3 years ago. So maybe you could tell us more about like that sort of, what was the idea? What went through your brain? You know, how did it start?
Yeah, totally. So at the time I was still an undergraduate in college, and I had a number of problems that I was running into with my studying and with my brainstorming and with organizing projects that I was working on.
Yeah.
So with the learning side, I was doing okay in classes, but I had this feeling that every semester I was just learning a bunch of knowledge, filling up my brain, and then just pumping it all the following semester and just having it all disappear. With the thinking side, I needed to sort of organize knowledge, take it from my class notes, try to connect it to the sort of research projects that I was involved in, and also just wanted to try to synthesize what I was learning into my own sort of viewpoints, and was really struggling with that. And then with the sort of project management side, again, I was sort of struggling to just organize and keep track of everything that I was doing. So I started using some of the kind of existing tools in this space, your different note-taking tools, your different sort of learning tools, and felt that I was quickly running into bottlenecks with all of them. The biggest one, I guess, was that everything was sort of disparate and not really connected to each other properly. So I was jumping around all the time, but also none of them really did precisely what I thought was necessary in terms of helping me really, first with the learning side, go and internalize some concept deeply, figure out how to understand it myself, and then really internalize that for the long term. And then take that into something that I could think about and sort of integrate into the way that I sort of approach the world and approach problems. So I started reading up on this and found that there were a lot of really interesting techniques that at the time really just weren't embedded in many of the popular tools that I had access to. So these are techniques like spaced repetition, which is a really powerful way to organize and learn knowledge for the long term. Techniques like making links between your various notes and Zettelkasten. So some of these the community has made progress now on making some of these more popular. And also techniques like breaking down knowledge into sort of your own language to think about with it, and then sort of like draw connections between those ideas, sort of like in a graph. So it seemed like all these were ideas that I thought you would want in a tool that sort of organized all of your thinking and learning. So I started to build what has eventually become RemNote. So for a while, it was mainly just me and a small group of friends testing and experimenting with the idea and really trying to find the most precise or useful way or most useful feature set. So then a few years down the line, by this time I already been using it for some time, of course, and it started to seem like, hey, this is probably something that other people could find utility in as well. It seems reasonably stable now. So at the beginning of 2020 or so, started the process of trying to scale this up to more people, launched the Twitter account, started making the site easier to onboard onto. And yeah, so since then, it's just been a great process of growing the team, talking with tons of users, and just really continuing to try to find and design the best kind of processes and tool, I guess, for helping people along that sort of full pipeline of learn anything that they want, internalize it for the long term, and then deeply integrate it with the sort of thinking processes so that they can solve harder problems than they could otherwise. Yeah.
Sure. I'd love to be able to have that skill to just like, if I had a problem, make a productivity tool to solve it. That must be quite a nice one to have. How did Mike and Matty, when did you come in that sort of timeline? to join
Yeah.
Martin and the team?
So we come in a little later in the story. So at the time, my brother Maddie and I, we're both doctors, and at the time we were teaching students how to study for exams and that sort of stuff. And we have our own YouTube channel. You can find us at Mike and Maddie on YouTube. We talk about stuff like spaced repetition and evidence-based learning. And at the time, we were also reviewing a lot of note-taking tools. That's actually how we started on YouTube almost a year ago. Was a big part inspiration from your channel, actually, from Keep Productive. So it's actually surreal just sitting here talking to you. But our first videos were comparing note-taking apps, comparing productivity tools. We talk about the iPad and note-taking and that sort of stuff. And so just being in that space, serendipity hit, and then we came into contact with Martin when we started reviewing RemNote. And so you might find some early videos of us reviewing RemNote. So it's just after that we joined the team, and so people might get confused that, hey, why are these guys reviewing RemNote and then they're on the team? So that was prior to us actually getting together. But then fast forward, we've been working with Martin, and it's just been a blessing. It's been quite a journey, and the thing that I really love about how we met and how we got together is that I kind of see it. We came together from almost two different worlds. Like here we have this young and talented guy who is building things to help you think, and then on the other side we have Maddie and myself who approach it from the studying and learning aspect. And so I see RemNote kind of standing apart from a lot of the other tools in the space, in that we combine these two very different worlds. But ultimately, learning and thinking, they go hand in hand with each other. So
100%. And you guys are primarily focused on students, but you've had a big take up from, I'd say quite not just students, many others who are sort of doing that, like research and being able to bring their notes together. Maybe for those who are watching and are like wondering, I guess, the three things that RemNote does, could you explain that for them?
Sure. So the tool is designed in a pretty flexible way. So because of this, we sort of have a surprising, I guess, breadth of different types of people who I've talked to, who have found their own sort of workflow. The core sort of experience that you get in the tool is one of an outliner. So if you're familiar with Dynalist or Workflow or Rome or one of these sort of UIs, that's the primary experience that you get. And then because this outliner is such a sort of general sort of UI, you can overlay a lot of different features and workflows on top of that. So one workflow, for example, for the students is to take notes within the outliner, generate flashcards directly within your notes. We have a very streamlined way of doing that. And then study those flashcards over time using our spaced repetition feature. Another workflow for, I guess, researchers or writers that I talk to is to upload sort of PDFs or source material to RemNote, take notes directly linked to the PDF because of the sort of like general representation that we have, and then organize those notes into their own Zettelkasten over time. And then I guess another category are people using it more for like product management. I've talked to some just product managers. I've talked to some salespeople using it as a CRM. And here they're taking advantage of both the sort of linking features in that, for example, with the CRM, it's really useful to be able to say, I'm talking with this person now, and then later on go and see everywhere you're linked to that person. Or also just using it for managing to-dos. So the core experience is that of the outliner, and because of the way that we've architected it, then you can really customize your workflows on top of that.
Fantastic. Yeah. I bet it's rewarding seeing the different types of uses that come about from all the different types of people. And it's obviously like I think you mentioned at the start, like Martin, that it was like obviously like such a this last like I don't know this last like year, everybody is talking about bidirectional links and this whole Zettelcasting thing and Slipbox. And to be honest, I had no idea about it whatsoever until this last year. I guess I still don't fully understand bits of it. But obviously, it's seen the rise of apps like Roam and Obsidian and Notion. How do you obviously you guys are very tailored towards students, and the flashcards aspects is a little different. How do you guys say you compare or see yourself against these other apps?
Yeah. So I guess there's a few approaches to that question. So first, I guess in terms of the approach, as we've said, we're very focused on sort of the personal learning and thinking experience. So for example, well, all these tools are pretty horizontal. They support a number of approaches or a number of workflows. But for example, something like Notion definitely seems more focused on the sort of knowledge management and now collaboration side of that. So for many of Notion's users, we're either not a direct competitor or we, I think, are clearly the answer, I guess, for the sort of thinking and learning side of that. So then, as you point out, there are other tools which are definitely more direct competitors. There, I guess, the second perspective on this is just sort of like the raw feature sets that we have. So some things that sort of are unique with us are the deeply integrated space repetition, deeply integrated sort of like PDF annotation pipeline, also sort of kind of basic functionality that you just expect, like totally private local knowledge bases on your computer, the sort of rich backlinking, the infinite hierarchy, and then I guess maybe the third perspective on this is the architecture of the tool. So this is maybe lower level in that it's not the first thing that you'll sort of notice as a user, but I think that it really impacts the kind of workflows that you can have down the line. So in RemNote, everything, like literally everything within the tool is just sort of a bullet point rem. So to contrast with other tools, in RemNote, everything is a rem. In Notion, everything, well, things are roughly blocks. In Roam, you have sort of like pages and blocks, and in Obsidian, you have sort of like markdown files, right? And all of these come with different trade-offs. So for example, the markdown file thing is nice because you can just, anything that talks to a markdown file can talk to that through Obsidian. But the advantage of the sort of bullet point graph setup where everything is a rem is that this enables that sort of wide flexibility that we've been sort of hinting at or talking to. So, for example, you're not limited to what can be a document or what is not a document. You can decide to arrange and create your own folder hierarchies if you want, simply because that's just like a tree in a graph, right? Yeah. Or if you want to start integrating with the PDFs, well, the PDFs are not like some weird second-class citizen. They're not some like second-class feature. They're just more bullets in your graph, and everything that you want to put into the PDF can be linked to anywhere else in your knowledge base. So again, some of this feels like why do I care about this? But it also enables those workflows. Like now suddenly I can link to everything within my PDF and track when I created those links and then automatically get that flowing into cards and so on. And this will also only just enable us to create even more sort of powerful workflows on top of this in the future. Again,
yeah, that answers it really well. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it seems I'm still yet to fully check it out. Obviously, I've dipped my toe in, but not fully. And it does look like quite an interesting approach compared to the other ones. Before we talk about the future side of stuff, which I think a lot of people would be interested in, a question for Mike and also Matty, more like, how did you guys get into, I guess, the interest in like study techniques and that world of apps? Was it something that you found that you were helping other students, and you like got inspiration from that then?
Yeah. So just as doctors ourselves, we spend a lot of time studying, just hours and hours a day studying. And so just over the years, we like to think that we're getting somewhere with this, with our ability to study.
Yeah.
And so in medical school, they throw a lot of information at us, but they don't teach us how to study, or they don't teach us how to learn. They tell us what to learn,
Yeah.
but not really how to learn. And so we had to go out of our way to find resources on that. And so that's when we started discovering the whole world of cognitive science, neuroscience, psychology, behavioral science. Some of our biggest influences are all the scientists on the book Make It Stick, Henry Roediger, McDaniel, Jeffrey Karpik. A lot of these guys have been doing research on how the brain works and the best ways to get information in the brain and to get it to stick and to keep it for the long term. And so that's how we got started in the space. And then we also were inspired by people like Cal Newport, particularly his book, How to Become a Straight A Student, and then more recently, Deep Work. And so from there, that's why we started in the study space. But I think something interesting that Martin and I were talking about a couple of days ago is that when we got together to build RemNote, we saw RemNote actually. So when we got together, we realized that our relationship, like as human beings, our relationship with knowledge is kind of that of a pipeline, in that it starts with learning, and then the knowledge that you learn, you leverage it in your thinking, kind of brainstorming. And then from there, you use your thinking to create content, videos, blogs, posts, whatever. And then once you create, then you share it. And so RemNote was built along this entire pipeline of learning, thinking, creating, sharing. And so, for example, apps like Obsidian or Rome Research, they can do those things, but I see them as very focused on the thinking and creating aspect. They call themselves tools for thought. Apps like Anki and Quizlet and the dozens of other flashcard apps that use spaced repetition and that sort, I see them as focusing on the learning aspect. But for us, we're kind of at the intersection, and we focus on the entire pipeline. Where we start with learning, and it takes you through all the way to sharing and collaborating. And so that's why I just think it's so amazing to be working on this team, where we appreciate a more fuller connection with knowledge in that way.
Yeah, like a sort of full funnel process instead of just a bit of the funnel. Yeah, I really like it. It sounds like you guys have worked quite hard in putting everything together really well. And talking about that sort of 2021, weird couple of years, hasn't it been? But
Definitely.
what are your plans in terms of, I guess, features or anything you want to share in terms of where RemNote might be in nearer to the end of the year?
Yeah, it's exciting. We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline, and it all really ties back to the values that brought us all together in the first place.
Sure.
We really value empowering learners and thinkers, and so you can kind of see the features that we'll be releasing kind of hit those categories. So, for instance, for learning, we're excited to be building out more sophisticated spaced repetition algorithms. For the thinkers, we're working on things like tables, a more powerful graph view with a lot more customization, not only with the nodes, but the interconnection between the nodes that you can customize down to that level. Recently, we released a PDF annotator, as Martin mentioned. We want to work on tables, all the way down to one of the biggest things I'm personally excited about is building RemNote more into a social experience, because our relationship with knowledge is just so much more enriched when you're able to share it with others. And I think as human beings, one of the most intimate things that we can share with each other are our thoughts.
Yeah.
And so being able to work together on a knowledge base with someone else or with multiple other people and actually see how they, not only what they're thinking, but also their beliefs, how they arrived at those beliefs. You can go through their RemNote, and we have this cool little experimental feature where you can actually trace back the breadcrumbs of a person's thoughts in their RemNote. And so you can kind of see why people have different perspectives on a certain discussion or a certain argument. And it makes it so that all of our, like, the idea is to all have one brain together.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know, Martin, if you have
exciting.
anything to add there too.
I mean, I guess that there maybe are a few other like specific features we could mention. People might be interested. So a few that are coming out, hopefully in the next few months, don't hold me too much to this, are just highly requested things like the iOS app to augment our existing Android app, even more enhanced sort of plugin system. We already have a number of people developing like custom themes and custom extensions, and we just want to make it even easier for these people. There's a number of stuff that I'm pretty excited about, honestly, just to even help in my own workflows, such as different queries and an ability to sort of manage different sort of even like workspaces, different type of projects. What else? Yeah, so I mean, there's sort of like a bunch of these sort of things in the work. And honestly, if one of our users is listening to this, then you probably know roughly what's coming. But yeah.
Brilliant. I can see you sweating, Martin, as you list these features, going, oh, this is a busy couple of months. That's that's really impressive. Obviously, the year ahead is going to be quite exciting. So I appreciate you both coming on. If there's anything, obviously you've got Mike and Matty's channel to follow. You got the RemNote, I went the wrong way, RemNote website to check out. And we'll be doing a review soon. Is there anything you'd like to say to your community if any of them are listening along?
Yeah, we can't thank you enough to our community. We have some of the most dedicated people that use RemNote, and they're always giving us amazing feedback. And so that's just one of the things that any founder, that's the best that any founder could ever ask for. So thank you, everyone using RemNote.
Get on. Lovely, jubbly. Well, I think that was really insightful, guys. And I was very interested to hear that, how you guys got to where you are today. So yeah, that's it's really exciting. Anyway, guys, if you want to check out RemNote, everything will be in the description. And I appreciate both Mike and Martin for coming on. So thanks, guys. And hopefully we can do this one again soon with maybe an update of what's happening or any new exciting features. But thanks, guys.
Thanks.